Okay, what happened in the groups? What did you hear? Any true stories you'd like to share or things that you learned about generosity? What was discussed in your groups? Yes, Dennis.
I think, so our question was, what gets in the way of being generous?
Okay.
It's judging. Right?
Judging. Talk to us about that.
So, for example, the example we talked about, going into a store and looking for, I'm walking into a store looking for a return, right?
Oh, okay.
Sometimes just the look that you get as you walk in, rolling your eyes like, oh my goodness, here comes a return. They're judging you based off of the fact that most likely that product works, it's an okay product, he's just returning it because he wants to, right? So I think judging already puts you in a position that I'm not going to listen to what you have to say, I'm not going to ask you
I've already
questions.
made up my mind.
I've already made my mind.
Yeah. Good. Very good, Dennis. Anybody else? Yes.
Ours was what difference does it make when you are generous?
Yes. What difference does it make?
One of the things that we said is just the long-term effect that it has versus a one-time wonder.
Yeah. Yeah. Super long-term effect. Very good. Anybody else? Yes.
We had what are the risks of being too generous? Well, one of the main things we actually, right towards the end, we brought up, it could actually be insulting to the person that you're talking to. Maybe that's not what they wanted. They didn't want a monetary thing. They wanted somebody just to listen. And when you give them something, well, did you really listen to them, or were you just trying to give them something to pacify them to get them off the phone?
Yeah.
Or to get them away from you?
Yeah, huge risks in being too generous. It can happen. You can give away margin and profit in a New York minute.
Yes.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. So that's a great exercise, and you'll enjoy teaching this to your teams. Generosity is a wonderful thing in building customer loyalty. All right? So, could someone read this quote for us? Volunteer? Yes, thank you, Gerardo.
You give but little when you give of your possessions. It is when you give of yourself that you truly give.
What can we learn from this quote?
It's not monetary.
It's not necessarily monetary. Think of the firefighters.
You know, one of the things we talked about here about being overly generous, even though it wasn't our question, is that people understand that businesses have a business to run. They can't give away the farm. But they appreciate that there is a discussion, there is empathy, that we're taking time to have that discussion with them. And if we treat them as just another person returning or looking for, with skepticism, then they'll feel that at the end of the call.
Yeah, really good point, Charles. Thank you. There's so many examples of this. In each of your businesses, it's going to be different. I think about the manager I saw waiting on a young mother who had an infant in a car seat, clearly heavy. She had her packages, and he offered to help carry the car seat. Just wasn't in his job description. It was this generosity of attitude, generosity of spirit that you as leaders can teach your team is going to make a huge difference in your customer loyalty.
The third and final principle is generosity. I admit, Sandy, that I can't see how I could be loyal to an organization that isn't generous.
Unfortunately, so many are not generous. People will sometimes hide behind policy and procedure, and they'll be worried about losing a few cents and lose a customer that could be worth thousands of dollars in the future. Some of these organizations that we'll be delivering this course to have a very hierarchical, top-down kind of feeling. And so this idea of really empowering people to be generous and to go the extra mile, I think is an important thing to remind them of.
And generosity comes from the heart.
It does. I mean, generous people make the extra effort, and you don't have to give away the store.
Exactly.
The smallest things can make the biggest difference, and we really want to point that out.
That's probably a big fear for people. I don't want to give away the store and bankrupt my business, and so therefore, how do I do this?
And so think about, earning the loyalty of your team members. When you empower them to do things for customers that just light customers up that don't cost a lot of money. Not only does the customer feel great, the employee feels great, and they feel great about themselves. They also feel great about you as their leader, putting them in that position. And in the huddles, these are the kinds of stories that you want the huddle leader to draw out and say, give me an example this week of when. Tell that story about what you did for Mrs. Smith. That was amazing.
And then we celebrate them, so it reinforces the behavior.
So if I can get up in the morning and know that I can make a contribution as an employee and I have the power to do that, my managers let me do that or asked me to do that, it feels better to come to work every single day.
It does.
It feels good to be generous.
Yes, it does.
At this point, we're about mid-afternoon, and I'm wondering, does the energy start to flag at this point in the work session?
That's the beautiful thing about this workshop. The celebratory energy of the group keeps the energy high, and it builds throughout the day, including after lunch. The heart of this topic often energizes a typically sluggish afternoon, and you don't see it. You don't see the sluggishness. And Annette, I want to emphasize that for the facilitator, do not skip the whole celebrations. They're part of, they start off every huddle, and as you're monitoring the tables, make sure that nobody's skipping the celebrations. That's what keeps the energy high. Really celebrate the generous nature of the stories that people are going to tell. Really celebrate when someone is called out for their exemplifying the principles and the practices. And I've found that to happen too. Within the group, they'll say, oh, I want to celebrate, and they'll mention somebody who's in the seminar, somebody who's done something great. We celebrate them. So we start getting this ping pong effect between participants in the group celebrating each other. It's a wonderful thing, and that's what keeps the energy high.
So don't let managers, when they're practicing the huddles, skip the celebration, because that will keep the energy high for the work session, which is really fun. But second, it will also teach them that they need to make sure they celebrate every single huddle with their employees so that it keeps their excitement and their energy as well.
That's exactly right.
Okay, great.
Okay, now let's look closely to 2 generosity practices with your coworkers and your customers. Share insights openly and surprise with unexpected extras. Huddle 9, share insights openly. This huddle is about sharing our insights, ideas, information, data that will help everyone learn and improve. You're going to conduct Huddle 9 in your groups. Follow the script in the leader guide on page 54. I'll stop you in 10 minutes for the Share Insights Openly activity. Ready, go. Very well done. We're going to do the Share the Insights Openly activity as a large group. And to prepare for that, first we're going to listen to an audio story sharing suggestions. And as you listen to this, I would like you to notice how the manager follows the guidelines for sharing on the back of the practice card, okay?
Andrea, how's your day?
Just great so far.
We like the work you've been doing since you joined the team last month. You're a great tech. Do you remember I said we'd be having one-to-one talks now and then? Would this be a good time to talk?
Sure.
The shift Thursday night was crazy, wasn't it? There was an emergency C-section in room 2, and most of us had to rush in and help. And then there was Mr. Kim in room 3, and his wife wasn't progressing well. Do you recall he asked you to come in and help her?
Yes, but I was busy stocking the carts.
Well, he got quite upset. Can you tell me what happened?
I was stocking the epidural carts because they were empty from the rush we had. And this guy came out and shouted at me that I was standing around doing nothing while his wife was in pain.
Oh my gosh.
Well, he was overreacting, and I told him so. And there wasn't anything I could do anyway. So I told him to be patient because we had an emergency in the next room and the nurses would get to her.
And then?
He stormed off and said he was going to complain to management about this lousy hospital and the help and everything about me and my lazy, good-for-nothing attitude.
Wow, that was harsh.
Yeah, so I guess I didn't handle it very well.
Do you think you should have handled it differently?
Yes, but I'm not sure how. I'm just a tech, not a nurse. I really couldn't do anything for her.
I understand. You must have felt pretty overwhelmed. Could I share some ideas with you?
Sure.
In those situations, I always think first of the empathy principle. In the loyalty cards, here's the first empathy practice.
Make a human connection.
How do you think you could have done that with Mr. Kim?
I don't know. Smile? Show him I care?
That's where empathy starts. And it's just that simple. Sometimes when we're really busy, it's hard to make that human connection. But the more you work on it, the more it turns into a habit. And then, just listen. Sometimes when patients like the Kims are upset, they just want someone to hear them out.
You mean just stop and listen?
Yes, a listening ear. As you listen, you start understanding the real problem. You can learn about the real job to be done.
Right. I remember that now.
So, what do you think was the real job to be done?
Take a minute to just give her some comfort. Maybe a drink of water or another blanket.
It might have been as simple as that. They can't expect you to deliver her baby painlessly right there and then, and they don't. What they really need is some empathy. Somebody to let them know they're not forgotten. That's a job we can all do.
But what about the epidural carts?
What do you think?
Well, I guess around here it's always a balancing act.
You're learning. Andrea, you'll be just fine.
Okay, what happened to the loyalty between this manager and the person working for her?
It just grew because
Tell us why.
It went from, instead of her sitting her down to like a reprimand, it was more of a session where they had a discussion. And instead of the leader telling her, this is what you should have done, this, she asked, what do you think you could have done? And she let her come up with her own ideas, so she had more of the buy-in. That, one thing we discussed at our table was like the buy-in. That makes the big, because when they come up with their own ideas, they make it feel like, oh, it's our own. This is what I could have done.
How beautiful was that? Any other observations? What did this manager do well? Jessica?
She asked a critical question at the very start of the conversation. Can you tell me what happened? So she could get an insight on where her employee was at and what her thought process was.
Loved it.
So as she shared and gave her observations, the employee was open to really listening and embracing.
Do you think there was any question in the employee's mind what was going on in that discussion? I don't think so.
No.
It was very clear. They were having a discussion. Which side of the table was the manager on?
They're on the same side.
They were definitely on the same side. This was a team effort, right? Yes.
What I appreciated too is the employee acknowledging that she did something wrong. She needed some more information.
There was room for improvement.
Yeah, that was just drawn out based from that conversation.
Yeah. How did you react to, may I share a thought with you versus, may I give you some feedback?
I think at one point, if somebody's she asked for permission to give her the training. Are you at a point where you're ready to receive some coaching? Which some people are just like, if they're on a 10, they're just like, they won't even hear you. But if they willingly invite you in and invite that training and that dialogue, then that's a partnership right there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. What's your reaction when someone comes up to you and says, can I give you some feedback? What's your first reaction? Yeah, like Nicole's.
What I do.
Yeah, is it going to be negative or positive? It's probably not going to make your day, all right? So this is a wonderful language that you can use.
Yeah.
May I share a thought with you? A lot more positive. Were you going to say something?
I was just in agreement. So I was like, when somebody tells me, oh, do you want some feedback? I'm like, oh, all right.
Yes.
I think probably one of the most important things on this card, the share card that will direct your conversation, is declare your intent.
Yeah.
That we were just talking about, how if you go into a meeting and say, hey, we're gonna have a great training day, nobody's in trouble, or sometimes, because like you said, when you go up to somebody like, hey, you mind if we have a conversation? Like, oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
But hey, I've got some great coaching information for you. It's that intent is gonna steer the conversation.
And what Louisa said is so important, because if you don't declare your intent up front, the whole time they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And they're not listening to everything you're saying. They're just waiting for the bad news to hit. Leah.
And it started also positive with the recognizing of the job well done.
Wasn't that beautiful?
Something good.
Beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing. How well did she do following the guidelines? I thought she did great. Dennis, you think so?
Absolutely.
I thought she did so too. Really great. Well, let's practice these guidelines. We're going to break up into pairs now and find a partner. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to share insights openly. Find a partner. One person will be the manager, the other the employee. Managers, hold a one-to-one coaching session using the sharing guidelines, all right? Choose one of the employee scenarios. They look like this. One of those provided, or you can make up your own one that you use at your own work. And when you finish the scenario, trade roles, okay? We'll give you about 10 minutes to do that, all right? Any questions on the instructions? Good, ready, go.
All right. I can be the manager on the first one.
Okay, you want to be the manager or the associate?
So, team leader. Others have started to write me information. I love working with you when you're in 5.
Okay, I'll give you my observation. You guys are really getting good. You really are. And it wasn't a matter of telling the employee what they needed to do. It wasn't compromise. I really heard some great third alternatives coming up with some real solutions. And these are real problems. There's no easy answers. And that's why getting two heads working on it on the same side of the table makes such a difference as you work out these creative solutions to problems. Because when you work it out together, what does loyalty do?
Creates more loyalty.
It just grows. And that employee is going to be far more loyal to you as a leader and as a manager than they ever were before, than if you came up with a solution on your own and just mandated an answer. All right? How did it go? Were the guidelines helpful?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, use them. These can be very helpful. And as I said, it's actually a confidence booster when you as a leader have the card in front of you as you're talking to your team member. It really does. It sounds a little bit counterintuitive. That's been our experience. They really do like having that card there. It builds their confidence. So let's make some commitments to share information. What opportunities do we have for sharing our ideas, observations, and insights in order to improve the business? This is the commitment that you're making now for the week ahead as we draw towards the end of this huddle. Think about it. What can I do in the week ahead to do a better job of sharing my insights? What can I do in the week ahead to share my observations? Love it when you say, can I share a thought with you? There's tons of opportunities for that. May I share an idea I had with you? It's going to do so much to build loyalty with your team, all right? Great huddle. That's the end of our huddle. We'll schedule our next huddle for a week from today, same time, same place. You're doing great. Time for a break.
Huddle 9 is the last of the participant-led huddles. Gordon, can you share insights for us on conducting this huddle?
I'd be happy to share with you on this one.
Thank you.
This is a facilitator kickoff. They kick off the audio. And it's about sharing with customers and with coworkers information. And the main point here is to look for new ideas and then share them. To be generous with information. Sharing information builds loyalty.
So at this point in the work session, participants have learned how to conduct huddles. So what tips can you give us on helping to keep the energy high and also helping to keep people on script? So the main thing
is to take them right back to this leader guide. For some reason, we've noticed this, they start to feel like that it's embarrassing or that it's a crutch to use the leader guide. So again, pull them back to the leader guide. It's your best friend. This is what's going to help you accomplish what you're trying to accomplish in increasing customer and employee loyalty.
Can I add one thought to that? Well, you know, in many organizations where we're going to be doing this program, there's a top-down focus, and managers on the front line, people that are going to be in this training, are very good at figuring out what's wrong, at pointing out the problems, because, we're managers and we're good at finding problems and solving them. And what we want to do is we want to flip that upside down. So we want to remind these managers the importance of catching people doing things right. Almost to a 3-to-1, let's celebrate and find great things and point people out. And, Annette, share this great story. And I want to tell a great story about what Gordon did. We want 3-to-1 celebrating to pointing out, opportunities to improve if we can.
Recently, I learned that, neuroscience is telling us that positive reinforcement is much more powerful than negative reinforcement. So it seems that this making sure we're celebrating it and building it into our cadence and the system that we're doing here really forces that issue, and it causes perhaps managers who aren't good at pointing out the good, they're better at pointing out the problems.
Yes.
It will actually force them to change what they're doing and change the results that they're getting.
Exactly.
And as facilitators, we all want positive reinforcement.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's also important to invite participation and input and celebration around using the guide and also their vision for their team huddles. What do you want to accomplish from this huddle? What do you expect from this huddle? And then celebrate that. Cannot celebrate too much.
I'm getting that.
Yeah.
Celebration's a big deal. Thank you.
Welcome to Huddle 10, Surprise with Unexpected Extras. This huddle is about giving creative, unexpected extras that cost little but earn increased loyalty from both customers and co-workers. What kind of extras are you giving now in your businesses or operations? Yes.
We have a point system that every employee gets 1,000 points every quarter to give away to their fellow employees or managers.
Wow, how's that received?
Oh my goodness, it's been tremendous. People have been redeeming things like dunking our CEO in a tank of water and having a coffee delivered from your district director for a week. And
beautiful.
It's been wonderful.
Love that. Anybody else? Yes, Ashley.
Recently, our GM and sales manager set a quota for the sales team. If they met that quota, they would be washing their cars for them. So
perfect.
The GM, the sales manager are going to get out there and wash some cars this weekend.
What does that do for your team?
Builds morale.
Builds morale?
Yeah.
I like that. That's good. Anybody else? Those are good.
Makes it
yes.
We have several incentive programs. One is if an employee is caught doing something above and beyond or extraordinary, they're rewarded with a pin that's called Catch a Star, and they're awarded a gift certificate or a gift card. We also have an attendance or perfect attendance award for all of our employees, and then we also have, I believe it's called a swipe and win, where if you swipe your badge, you have a chance to win gift cards or anything happening for that day.
And how does your team like that?
The employees seem to really enjoy it because it gives them the incentive to go above and beyond, or even just to have perfect attendance.
Beautiful. I like that. So, let's read a story called The Pizza Shop. It's about a team that's always coming up with little extras. Could I have a volunteer read those for me? Charles, thank you so much. Charles is going to read this story to us. Charles?
The Pizza Shop. This is a story about a pizza takeout place that was a little unusual. Actually, it was very unusual. Of the hundreds of identical stores in this pizza chain, this one produced the most revenue and had the lowest staff turnover. The executives of the company put this place under a microscope to find out what made it so different. It turned out it was the manager. He would huddle with his team each week and ask one question: what can we do this week that we've never done before? The question all by itself excited them, and they were smart. They came up with things way outside of the box. The pizza box, if you will. Like selling cold pizzas for breakfast. People ate it up in the mornings. One of the kids was a car racing fan, so she came up with the idea of turning their parking lot into a pit stop for drive-by customers. They clocked themselves to see how much faster they could deliver pizza. One team member was thinking about that, and then he noticed the laundry chute in his house where he dropped his clothes. He thought, why not a pizza chute? So they created one out of a water slide. Another day, they went to the Senior Citizen Center during the canasta tournament, and they sold pizzas to the players. And since they were already there, they came up with a new game called Pizza Bingo. In every huddle, they talked about what was working, proposed new experiments, and made plans to carry them out. What can we do this week that they have never thought of before? The question energized the team, engaged their minds, and excited their hearts. They didn't just like working there, they loved working there.
Thank you, Charles. So why is this team so loyal?
They're engaged.
They're what?
Engaged.
Why are they engaged?
I think because they have a say in how they're going to do their job. They bring ideas to the table, and their ideas, come to fruition, and so that makes them feel empowered.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. They are engaged. Any other thoughts?
It's fun. I mean,
it's fun.
Who doesn't want to go and work somewhere that's fun, where you're going to be creative, where you're going to be able to have ideas? It just seems like a cool environment.
Yeah. Anybody else? Yes, Ashley.
They feel like they're making a difference. It's not the same thing every day. Like, okay, yeah, they're going in and making pizzas, but how can we make it better? And it's their ideas.
It's their ideas. They want to make a difference. I think about that kid who came up with the pizza shoot idea. He was at home looking at his laundry.
He did love pizzas.
And it's kind of the same idea that we mentioned way back in huddles 2 and 3, that when you get this rhythm of huddles, your team's thinking all through the week. Yes, Charles.
I think sometimes things are pushed down from corporate, and it may not match their scenario or their demographics where they're at.
Yeah.
Here, there's ownership from their own group, and they, in a sense, become their own marketing team.
Yeah, I love the way you.
Fun.
Yeah, I love the way you say that. Too many times people are waiting for it to come down from corporate. This manager did it differently. He built an environment where it was coming from the ground up. People who were dealing with the customers every day on the front line. So it built tremendous loyalty. Let's find out how to give those unexpected extras that are so important to earning loyalty. Please take out the surprise practice card and turn to page 59 in your leader guide. Okay, let's read through the front of the card. Surprise with unexpected extras. Constantly experiment with new and creative ways to show people we care about them. This could be your employees or your customers. All right? Opposites. Do what it takes to get by or meet expectations. Counterfeits. Give expected extras that show no imagination. I know an endodontist who gives out guitar picks for everybody who has a root canal. A guitar pick for a root canal? Are you kidding me? So, that's a counterfeit. Giving an extra that makes no sense. That's not what we're talking about here. Those unexpected extras that really make a difference, all right? So, what opposites or counterfeits have you seen in this regard? Anybody? Can you think of any?
I think one would be kind of just the standby, standby certificate. Hey, great job. I don't know. I think that we're kind of beyond that now, where you do a great job, and here you go. Here's your certificate.
For length of service or something?
Yeah, for something like that. Just you've been here for a year. Here's a certificate. Move on out.
And that's the challenge with the ones that were mentioned here earlier, like that came from Leticia and some of those that you're doing, and they're great. But over time, what happens? People start to expect them, and then they're not unexpected anymore. And then they start. So that challenge is to keep them new and fresh. We're going to talk about that. Yes, Nicole.
I think any reward system or point system that the employee or the person who receives it doesn't deem valuable or worth anything.
Yeah.
So anything that would maybe come from corporate or come from leaders that hasn't incorporated, well, what would matter to you? What would be rewarding to you as an employee or as someone who's giving the effort is counterfeit.
Well said. That's exactly right. Let's look at the back of the card for guidelines on giving extras. Could somebody read that first one for us, a volunteer? Yes, thank you, Garen.
Give low to no cost little extras to everyone, e.g. send personal messages, remember people, greet customers by name.
Thank you very much. Second one.
Ask, what extras could we come up with this week to surprise our customers?
Who does this every week in your teams? It can be a very healthy exercise. We're going to try this in a minute. Third one, who could read that for us? Yes.
Experiment with creative new ideas to see what works.
Do you think in this pizza shop that Charles read to us that he tried every idea that came up?
No.
Probably not. but he tried some. Do you think they all worked?
No.
Probably not. But some did, and it made a difference, and that's what got him noticed. Fourth one. Yes, Erica.
What are we doing right now to delight the customer? What does it work? Is everyone doing it?
Very good. So those are some guidelines to think about when we're talking about extras. Any of these stick out to you? Anybody have a story or something you'd like to say about these guidelines? Yes, Louisa.
I think the one where it says give low to no cost, it isn't always monetary. It isn't always physical. Some people thrive on public praise. Some people thrive on giving them an area to own for themselves. So, when you find out what each person likes, you don't always have to give them a gift card. You don't always have to give them anything like that.
Thank you. Yes, Garen.
I agree with Louisa. It's that personal thank you. Like you write them a handwritten one instead of sending them an email, because when it's more personal, it means it comes from the heart. So it's more genuine and it's a surprise to them. They're not expecting, I got an e-certificate, thanks.
Thank you, Garen. I am a huge fan of handwritten notes. In this day of texting and email, a handwritten note cuts through the clutter. It cuts through the noise. It can get right to the person, and it makes a huge difference. I have handwritten notes that I have kept for 30 years or more. I keep them. I mean, it just means a lot to me. It means a lot. Ursula.
Some people who receive those handwritten notes just keep becoming a little more involved, and they, if they're shy or withdrawn, they bring out their creative side. So what, I did that just recently with all of my team members, and they were all surprised that they got individual handwritten notes, and then I just saw them doing little extras for their own team members, so
Wow.
it kind of spreads.
Wow, that's a perfect example of where I was going. Can you think of examples like this where you've seen people do extra things like that that have made a difference? Anybody? Yes, Erica.
I think for me, I think it was last week, I had a supervisor that was really feeling down on herself about her leadership skill and starting to even question, like, do I want to continue to be a leader? And so when I was listening to her talk, I had went out to lunch, and I just got a little card that said thinking of you and a chocolate, and just wrote a handwritten note of encouragement, like, I know that you're feeling down, but you're a great leader. You're in this position because we see, that you have the skills to do it. I just want to encourage you to, just continue to do what you're doing. You're doing an amazing job. And so I think that was a little surprising because they didn't expect it, and they weren't in their office when I went and dropped it off, and I just put it on their desk. And so but I saw someone feeling discouraged, and I thought I need to do something to kind of lift them up a little bit and not feel down about themselves.
That's a beautiful story. A couple things she said, a lot of things. It was a surprise. It was unexpected. You perceived a need. It was just ginormous. Thank you. That was a perfect example. Were you going to say something, Charles?
Yeah, one of the things that I tried doing is I have monthly meetings. Aside from these wonderful huddles, I have a monthly meeting that's longer. And I want it to be a surprise. I don't want people to expect the same meeting agenda over and over and over. So, and then I have my members present part of it. And so I don't want to know what they're doing. I just want them to surprise me also. And it creates this excitement of surprise during those meetings.
Beautiful. That's a great idea to keep it fresh too. And by the way, it's not always you who has to lead the huddle. He likes to pass it around too. Do that. Have other people lead the huddle on your team. It can make a big, big difference, all right? Okay, so we're going to now do an activity where we'll experiment with coming up with some new extras. Turn to page 60 in your leader guide. We're going to surprise with unexpected extras. Let's do an experiment to increase customer loyalty. Brainstorm. What could we do that we've never done before? What could we do that we don't need permission to do? All right? And based on these ideas, what do we commit to do this week? So what we're going to do is going to use these two flip charts. I need two people who can write quickly. Who can scribe quickly? Okay, Gerardo, you take this one, flip back that page. One more writer, a scribe. Okay, come on, Charles. You go back there, flip back to a blank page. all right? So we're going to start throwing ideas at you, and fast, all right? And these guys are going to try and write them down. So what I'd like these two tables to throw ideas at Gerardo. The two back tables throw ideas at Charles. Ideas. What could we do that we've never done before? What could we do that we don't need permission to do? Unexpected, delightful extras to increase our business or increase loyalty in our operation, all right? This is rapid fire, guys. So when I say 3, get ready to go. On your mark, get set, go.
So something.
Okay, let's cut it right there.
Your station is clean, how better you
Very good. Okay, do you get the idea, the value of brainstorming something like this? When there's a little pressure, and I kept encouraging you to keep it going. And you can do this with your teams. And the ideas will start coming, all right? Then you can make some commitments based on these ideas. What do we want to commit to do this week? Some of these ideas are stupid, okay? But some of them are great, all right? You're not going to do them all, but the team did it. Think of the pizza story, all right? This is where you get buy-in from your team, and they're excited. They'll want to try some of these things. So you can make some commitments or some assignments to evaluate some of these, experiment with some of these, and then try some of them, all right? It's going to just get huge, huge commitment from your teams. Yes?
I just had a quick story. So I run a domestic violence shelter, and we got a donation of this water slide, this inflatable water slide, that probably a couple $100 donation. We tested out at work, so we just decided to have a water day. It didn't cost us any money. We filled up a couple inflatable pools. We set up this water slide. We barbecued hot dogs and hamburgers, and we just had a water day for the kids that live at the shelter, and everybody enjoyed it. Staff, kids, and it was just something on the spot, an idea we had, and it became this great, fun thing. Now we're going to do it again this year because it became a tradition now.
Nice. And that's exactly what we're talking about. It's this unexpected, fresh, new kind of things that we try that keep it new and fresh. Really, like he said, it cost them very little, if anything, to do that. And that's the idea, right? This is not the time to evaluate or judge the ideas. It's just to get the ideas thrown up on the wall. And some of them are going to stick, and some of them are going to be great. But I can promise you, this is when you get great buy-in from your team. Look at all the ideas we got in fewer than 3 minutes. It was amazing. And Charles had already gone to a second page, and Gerardo, he actually started a second column. So, I mean, that was a lot of ideas in very few minutes. Your teams are going to be a lot more specific and probably a lot more practical, but still, it's a great exercise, all right? There are uncountable ways to come up with extras. Let's look at this quote. Could someone read that for us? Thank you.
Make unexpected surprises a routine part of how you serve your customers, and they'll spread the love.
They'll spread the love. Love that, okay? Very good. Why does surprise create loyalty, do you think? It's genuine. Now, I'm talking about good surprises, okay? Yes?
It's also a human emotion, so it brings up an emotion in someone so that...
Oh, I like that, Ursula. Yeah, it brings up emotion. Thank you. Josh?
It's outside of the expectation.
It's outside the norm. They didn't expect it. Ashley?
Keeping it fresh shows
Keep
that
it
you
fresh.
care and that you're striving to be better for your customer.
Perfect. Nicole?
It's an investment. I think that you're showing that you care and you're taking time, energy, effort, some sort of thought when to most surprises, so it feels like an investment.
Wow, I love that idea. It's an investment. It's investment in your team, investment in your employee. Yes, Jessica?
It makes you feel special. It makes you feel unique. And that's what everyone loves.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Thank you. Any stories about this that anyone's experienced where you've had unexpected things happen that were good? Yes?
All of a sudden, one day, we had chips, we had salsa, we had an extended long lunch, and I thank you, Louisa, for making the awesome salsa and just bring it in randomly, and we all had a good time.
Yeah. It's amazing. I saw in the news last night a CEO who gave 10% of the company away to his employees. Completely out of the blue. And as they interviewed the employees, I saw tears and weeping and wow, I would do anything for this guy. When it's unexpected like that, and it's generous, like Nicole said, it's a ginormous investment in the team. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity in sharing those ideas. Those are really, really good. What is one commitment you can make to surprise with an unexpected extra in the week ahead? I'm not going to ask you to share it. Just think for a minute, what could you do in your job this week that would be unexpected and it would be an extra? Think of something, jot it down if you'd like. It could be as simple as have a brainstorm team with your team. So that's the end of Huddle 10. Thank you. We'll schedule our next huddle for a week from today, same time, same place.